Welcome back to the VCT Game Changers Stage 1 of North America. We're on to the elimination match between two teams. OWA OWA that took it the full distance against CLG Red versus a team that we just saw on Ascent. Watch this. Unfortunately lose 13-2. Might be even worse now considering the first map in this pool, Moxie, is Ascent again.
I mean, it might be worse, it might be better. We've seen that they can be extremely strong, but they have to be able to have that time given to them, a little bit of a breather, which unfortunately is not what they've just had, because despite OWA OWA going the full distance, they did get a little bit of a respite, right? Watch This are coming right off the bat of that match, which although it lasted 2 maps, that still means you're going to be running potentially 5 maps of Valorant in a row.
Yeah, it could be a pretty long approach. I guess the shining light to an extent, or maybe even not that. We did see OWA OWA lose 13-1 against CLG Red, but it was on Icebox, and Icebox was banned out pretty much immediately from the teams. We've got the same map pool, no split, no Icebox. We can sort of go over the picks in just a second. But we're itching for this series, Moxie, because we actually get to see and cast Astra for the first time, at least from my perspective, so that's very exciting.
I mean, we're going to gush about it, and you know what's going to happen, right? Despite them running Astra on every single map earlier, they're going to not have it. I can just feel it, but no, Astra is extremely strong, and if teams want to consistently run her and feel comfortable consistently running her, I don't really see her getting swapped out on any map. Purely because you can replace the Omen with her. Those smokes are so strong. We got to very briefly touch on it. But the fact that she is just so good at everything else, that she has the breach flashes rolled in, that she has the smokes, that you can pair her up with the breach, with the Phoenix to make those smokes, you can have that space, and then you use the flash to make sure that you have that space, and then you lock it down.
I mean, the hope, I suppose, in this series is that we go to bind, because we can only really talk about what we saw in front of us, right, with Watch This and as we saw Moon Raccoons. That series was pretty good. We saw some really good stuff out of Alex, as expected. One of the top Phoenixes, even, when you look at ACS and stats across all of the different Phoenixes, even across the world. Alex's name is right up there, right? So you would expect to see more out of them, certainly as opposed to Ascent, where every player on that team was a bit quiet, to be honest, and it was just individual brilliance coming out of Moon Raccoons. Because they have to go into the series and play the map again, it has to be an immediate response, right? And that's the concern, because if we saw that our CLG game end a little bit earlier like it did, they were probably watching the stream of the game that we just casted, right? So quick sharing of notes and stuff that they could do to punish it further.
Well, one thing though that Watch This can take solace in is the fact that they had some really good attacks. We talked about it, we both mentioned it. Despite that scoreline being so far apart, a lot of those rounds really felt extremely close. And it was only those very brief plays that were made individually on the part of Moon Raccoons that tipped that scales into their favor on those specific rounds. So if you watch this, you just do more of that. We saw really good aggressive plays coming out from their defense, right? The fact that they pushed so aggressively with the Phoenix, with the Reyna paired up, worked out absolutely beautifully every single time they went for that tag team. And with them starting on the defense again, I'm hoping that we get to see those plays again. The problem is, now you might potentially be caught out doing those plays without actually getting the kills coming in for that round where you catch your opponent off guard, because like you mentioned, you might have been watched.
Yeah, and I think so. We have our actually sort of picking up the scent, which we're going to be seeing in a second. Bind was picked up from Watch This, expected really. Haven being the last map, yet again, it was the final map between OWA OWA and CLG. Went to full overtime, but unfortunately couldn't string those 2 rounds together to winning out against a firm favourite of CLG Red, as we've been sort of repeating. It's hard to sort of say. We should have predictions coming in for Twitch chat if you want to put some channel points in to see for yourselves who you think is going to win, but obviously we only saw a glimpse of OWA OWA from the series on the other stream. Genuinely, I do think that when you look on paper, that performance against CLG Red was a lot more, certainly top tier, I think, from OWA OWA. But we need to see the eye test. We need to see that Astra in play, and it should be a hell of a game nonetheless.
I'm hoping for that Astra to be in play, but I agree. On paper, obviously, you are going to have OWA OWA coming in as the firm favorites. Watch This had already gone up against CLG, and it was not a close game. So the fact that OWA OWA were able to take it that close instantly puts them right up there for an advantage. But I'm hoping that we get to see this game start immediately. I know both of these teams are going to be absolutely raring to get to go, because for one of them, it is going to be the last time we get to see them in this tournament.
Yeah, sort of looking at it, I think we obviously saw some really good stuff out of Alex, Cass on the Sova, nice sort of plays on Bind, especially to get that information early on the B site. Ascent, I feel that we didn't really see that. We saw a couple of times where we saw the Reyna and the Phoenix push down B main with the run it back, take that space, get a kill, sort of break the default as it happens. But the problem with Ascent is we only saw that succeed twice at most. The rest of the time it was Moon Raccoons putting together a really nice default, winning those duels, going in for a really solid execute, and the post plants, unlike Bind, might I add, were pretty subpar in their approach and lost out, you know, by a hair in a couple of the cases, as we've been talking about.
And another thing to note as well is that Watch This's composition, it's incredibly static, right? They always come in with those same 5 agents. We never see the Jet coming out from them, and I talked about it, how dangerous it can be trying to find those first kills, those opening aggressions, the fact that you have to go for the Phoenix and the Reyna paired up together and use so much utility to actually guarantee that you're able to survive the encounter. Whereas the Jet is able to just peek her head out, then immediately dash back if there's any sniff of danger. And so Watch This coming in with that very static composition could potentially face that exact same problem of being able to be outmaneuvered, out-aggressed by their opponents.
We have a bit of a delay, by the way. That's why we're sort of waffling this. We're just getting people into the lobby, just making sure it works. But we can have a quick look at the day as it's sort of highlighted out and the rest of the bracket in a second, just to sort of go over how things are looking at this point. So far, at least in the upper bracket, we have Cloud9 White making their way through. Dignitas had a really nice series against TSM. Definitely check the VOD out of that one. We saw Moon Raccoons win 2-0, dominant in that final map for sure against Watch This, and they'll be playing up against CLG Red. All happening over the next couple of days. Of course, the elimination. TSM still within it if they want to sort of pull this back. It would need to sort of beat the Fwogs girls. I mean, I think it was Yinsi that was struggling to say it like that, but I don't mind. Just Fwogs. We all love Frogs, to be fair, so... it's good stuff from all of the teams so far, but you look at those top bracket teams, you've got 3 signed organizations, a good old Moon Raccoons mix it in with those top teams, and like I've been saying, it's been good to see them back, but we should be going into game fairly soon. Any final things that you want to sort of bring a spotlight to, Moxie, when it comes to these two teams?
Well, one of those things is that you might have that static composition not only coming back to haunt Watch This in the shape of not having a Jet and being outmaneuvered in terms of mobility, but also if OWA OWA want to run that Astra, you're going to be running up against no other Astra. And that means that you can hold on to that utility for a very long time and spook them out of space just by having those stars down. Remember, the enemy can see the stars, but they can't actually shoot them. So one way that you can deal with the Astra being around is you just give that white space a big old berth, and that's something that we really did see Watch This attempt in their defense up against Moon Raccoons previously, but we also saw how that paid off with them, right? The second they gave up that space, they were never able to get it back.
I think the only sort of red flag and concern that we'll probably see throughout this series, considering what we saw so far from Watch This, is the same composition coming out. You do typically see those adjustments made, you know, bringing in the Rays, for example, onto Bind, whereas you don't typically see a Rays over on Ascent, because we see that composition coming out at the same time pretty much over and over from Watch This. And you're playing up against a team that is running Astra and they're in a full time. It might be too much of an adjustment, really, and I think that's what surprised me the most about Moon Raccoons and how good they looked, is they changed to the typical meta compositions on each of the maps, playing the Rays on Bind, playing the Reyna on something like Ascent, does teams tend to go a long way, and it seems that they've got their sort of ducks in a row when it comes to the compositions they want to play, who's meant to be playing what role on the team. That is something that I don't know how much we saw from Watch This. I think when you have players like Alex being able to pop up at any given time, it doesn't matter so much, but still going into this, it's a little bit of a concern, I'm not going to lie, but it just might be because it's early days.
I think I have a very similar concern, right? And it spirals off the back of you're always going to be running that same composition, because we do see those adaptations coming through on different maps, but when you're always running that same composition, it's very quickly predictable for not only how you play on that specific map, but how any of your gameplay is going to translate over to the other maps. So even though we haven't seen them on Split, you know that you're still going to get aggressively pushed out of somewhere like Garage by a Phoenix and a Reyna, and you're just going to set up the exact same counter that you pull off on Ascent on that map without even setting foot there.
Apologies for the delay, guys, but we are going to go for a little bit of a break whilst we get things in order. When we come back, the final series of the day, whoever loses will be going home. So be sure not to miss it. This could be an absolute banger, and we're going to see some Galaxy Brain plays from Astra herself. So be sure not to go anywhere. We'll be back very shortly. Welcome back. We're ready to go in this series. As we've been repeating, the loser goes home on this one with OWA OWA playing up against Watch This. We've never casted Astra before, so me and Moxie are very excited to bring this one to you, as OWA OWA have been playing Astra pretty much full time, I think, throughout this tournament. First real opportunity we get to see a glimpse of her going up against a Watch This team that doesn't really stray too far from the composition that they're playing. The one thing I guess we failed to mention about Ascent is we just saw Watch This lose against Moon Raccoons 13-2 on this map, and this is the map that OWA OWA beat CLG Red 13-1 on. So if there's anything to tell you that this is the first map at least being favored towards OWA OWA, it's got to be that, right, Moxie?
Yeah, I mean, there is light at the end of the tunnel, though, for Watch This, even if you do lose this first map of Ascent. Because Bind will be that second one up, and that was where they put up the most fight against their previous opponents, Moon Raccoons. And there it is, confirmation, Ryan, that we get to see Teray going for that Astra. And with Stephanie already locked into that breach, that is going to be a monstrous initiating death ball coming out if Watch This don't just give space up for that attacking team.
I'm excited to see the breach. Oh, can't tease us that much. I mean, okay, I get it. It's probably going to be, what would it be? It'd be a silver, of course, wouldn't it? I was thinking Astra Viper comps, like the YouTuber brain was going on like that. That's something to highlight if this
Double
works
wall.
out well.
But just run a Sage as well, go for that triple wall, all of the control.
Imagine that Astra Viper and Yoru all on the same team. I mean, Breach, I suppose, in North America can feel kind of alien at the best of times, but pretty much what we were expected to come out of Watch This with their composition. That's pretty much what we were going for with what to expect from them. But this is going to be interesting. Even the breach from Stephanie has got me like, okay, this is going to be cool to see the combination of Astra versus Breach.
I mean, Breach is just so good as well on Ascent, because not only can you use that utility to immediately brute force your way onto these sites without ever putting yourself into danger. Remember, those flashes travel through the walls, but you can also use it on the defense to stop those spike plants from coming on through. And something that Watch This is not going to have is that utility on their side. They only have that Phoenix and the Reyna there with those flashes to try and delay this attack from OWA OWA to come through. And you can already see that Cypher camera going to be getting a big old eyeful of mid as Maddie-san already takes Alex out of the way, and that is not how Watch This wanted to start things out, Ryan. Alex is their best performer on Ascent and already gone.
Very quick engagement. Within the first 10 seconds, I think, from Maddie, Stephanie's managed to find a way into Wine to see if there's nobody hiding within the Omen smoke. See if there was anybody there extra to trade, but it has allowed a bit of positioning from OWA OWA as this A execute is starting to go through. I'm really interested in this Cypher lurk from Hannah, just holding on, making sure that nobody pushes through mid to make it to tree. A recon that is going to make its way through from the defenders, but it'll find nothing. OWA OWA poised to make an execute as the Astra sets up the utility.
I mean, you know as well, if you're not getting pushed and tree, that they're going to be coming from that high ground. There's the flashpoint coming on through. Maddie's going to be trying to get a little bit closer. Shoot through the nebula. OWA OWA have so much control of their space. They've got tree on absolute lockdown. That was the other nebula coming through. Clyde was going to cover up the door. Chelsea trying to use that layer. Little bit of information coming on through as they move. It's all going to be the same angle, though. That Omen not yet into position to take a fight.
Cass is trying to hold on to the site. Maddie is putting in so much pressure. And Stephanie with a flank, breaking it through the Astra's nebula. Jans tries to take those fights, but it's Hannah that slips in behind, all the way up on rafters. And a pretty stellar execute, I would say, from OWA OWA with how they set that up. And the concern again is Watch This not really working with all that much information, could get caught out on these executes as they come through.
I mean, Hannah, just with that look, it guarantees you know exactly where Watch This are going to be coming from. And so those nebulas, they're perfectly positioned, and even if you lose that fight, you're still drawing it out, making sure that Watch This just do not have time to get that defuse. And already we're seeing the problem of the Astra, how strong those smokes can be in setting yourself up. But not only that, the breach as well. Charles is going to go for a very aggressive hold through B main, but we expected this, right? OWA OWA, they've been watching that next map. Teray knows exactly what to expect.
Jewel is going to come in, and it's just sort of classics and ghosts peppering away as much as they can at OWA OWA. And Carly's the one that gets the kill. Information gathered and a tripwire broken allows Watch This to reclaim a little bit of this space, but the setup again is going towards an A execute. Jance is well aware that it could come through, so is trying to get onto an angle that can catch it in. But the main thing with this Astra utility, the flashes from Breach, it is a setup and very difficult to hold on to. Of course, you could just do what Jance did there to hide in the smoke to avoid being flashed, but the fault line's going to push them off the angle too. Clean stuff from OWA OWA. There's still plenty of people alive from Watch This, but nothing to really stop that spike getting planted.
Oh, and the lurk coming out from Stephanie as well. Flashpoint catches Jance and Zero, who were in garden in the hopes of getting that flank to cut through. As Watch This use those two angles. Half come through from tree, half come through from high ground. You sandwich them in between, but OWA OWA, they were expecting it. They were able to sandwich them. And Watch This, are forced fragmented into taking one fight after another fight that they're just not prepared for. However, OWA OWA were coming in on the stronger buy. And that cannot be said for this round. Watch This are going to be going for those full rifles, but OWA OWA sticking with the SMGs.
Yeah, Stephanie not too far away from having a rolling thunder 2-5-0, picking up an arm, getting a kill, could set up these executes even better than they have done so far, but a full buy from Watch This. Chels wanted to engage on this angle, but the Breach flashes, flashpoint, it's going to stop them, and Alex with the curveball is able to sort of contest that spot, get a kill and get out.
This is something that Watch This are prepared for. They know how aggressive OWA OWA like to be. Especially with that first round, how we just saw that Jet immediately move in with less than 10 seconds underneath their belt, and the Reyna is perfectly equipped to stop them from doing just that. That's why she is posted where she is, with the layers. And Zero is actually going to be trying to keep a little bit more control of mid than we've seen Watch This previously. They don't want to give OWA OWA all of this free space that the attacking side has been running amok with. Cass going to be charging up a shot, getting a little bit of information. Recon bolt destroyed, but now you do know there is presence on mid. You can start to maneuver your forces and try and cut them off before they hit that B site, because Teray is going to be able to set all of that Astra utility up.
The fact that they got the kill and immediately set up the Nebula smoke says a lot on how quickly they want to react off this stuff and how quickly Teray can actually do that, right? That was pretty instant with get the kill, immediately go into astral form, put down the smoke, execute. And I think that was something that Watch This struggled with the previous game against Moon Raccoons, but now trying to clear up some of the space, making sure that all of these attackers in the post plant are going to be playing offside. Teray putting down another position, but doesn't quite use the star to its full capability, allows Alex to sneak in. I don't know if they expected to put down the Nebula and it would work, but nevertheless, retake goes well for Watch This, only losing one player in total to get their first round on the ball.
I don't think it was intended to be a Nebula. It would much better be a gravity well, right? You pull them in, you force them to take that fight, and then you just have someone setting up. I think the most brutal thing I've seen Astra setup-wise is gravity well into early op or early marshal. It's absolutely devastating. You don't get the chance to try and not peek or jiggle peek, you just get sucked right on in. But watch this. Yeah, you can't take that fight. And then Watch This, though, they do hear that Astral form, they do move forward aggressively, they don't allow the Astra to get that chance to use that utility, and that is something that they are going to have to do every single one of these rounds if they allow OWA OWA to set up with those stars still in play.
Cosmic Divide is available, the only ultimate. I mean, if they get one more ult up, they can get a Rolling Thunder too to make it even worse, but Alex with the run it back is good. Actually being put off on the angle and doesn't get that much information. Nobody knows that Kali's playing on this aggressive off angle, and it makes Watch This a bit treacherous of playing in that position, but there's still 3 players over there. They dedicated a lot of bodies to try and take that space, but ultimately, they dedicate an ultimate. Chels takes a bit of damage, and now they're backing off and giving a lot of respect to OWA OWA this early into the round.
And it really does feel right that OWA OWA watch this. The way that they see that run it back in play for Alex, and then they have 3 members ready to meet them in B main and lobby. Jan's trying to be a little bit of a guard dog right now, is forced to back out or meet the wrath of a full attacking team. And you can already see that Watch This, that rotation's coming through, but the Sova is going to be late to the party. The spike hadn't been spotted, Ryan, and you can't take this fight with that information lacking.
Paranoid connects up to multiple people, that allows Chels to break in and Jance through the main doorway makes it so it's another clean retake. This is much better than what we saw at the main Raccoons game, and similar to the previous round, they only lost one player and the full retake comes in to even up the score. This is much better. The Astra going down early, though, is a bit of a problem, considering the ultimate's still available, all of the utility that you can use. You really don't want to see Ture go down that early, right?
No. The one thing, though, we do have to remember is that not only is Cosmic Divide still in play for that Astra, but Rolling Thunder is now up and ready for Stephanie as well, and that Breach ultimate, it's so good. On that A site, you can connect it all the way from main onto rafters to make sure that you do catch out anyone sitting on that high ground and use that to brute force your way onto the site. With the way that OWA OWA are positioning towards mid and A, definitely is a play that they could push for, but perhaps not on this round. Sheriff's going to be only on the table for this attacking side, as that Nebula is going to let them move through mid completely uncontested right now.
Ooh, but Alex finds a little bit of an angle just to spot onto Maddie. There's more there, though, and it's going to be kind of difficult to maneuver out of there, but the curveball is nice to try and set up a play. The Ture with the Sheriff is able to get some, but Alex is able to just get more. Stephanie with a breach is going to try and flash them. Might not be expected to play this close, but Jance, fully blind, full spray, able to win that engagement out. It is a 1 versus 2, 20 HP for Carly to try and make something happen here. I don't think they're going to be expecting the Cypher on the other side of that wall, however. Zera is only 9 HP as well. Look at that. Both these players just waiting for a bus to come at this point.
It's like you come here often.
I could sit and watch that all day. It's just, there's only 40 seconds left. I think if you're going to make a play at this point, Carly, needs to happen now. It's probably a save. Or, actually, the OWA OWA is completely open now.
Left.
You do have the spike. That A side is completely deserted. Carly does not know this, though. And so is going to be checking those angles meticulously. Hardly making any sound. Does have 2 shock bolts and a recon bolt charged up, and enough time to get that spike down. Recon bolt going to be coming through immediately, revealing that position as well as where that spike is going down. Watch this, already going to be rotating. But this is the thing, Ryan, they're both going to be coming from that exact same angle. High ground is the only thing that Watch This currently control, but Carly's backed off of the site and is now completely covered in that smoke.
Did we kill him? Oh, the shock dart is perfect. There is a Hunter's Fury available, but this is the kind of engagement that's going to make it awkward. This smoke is going to go down. That shock dart gives away the position. Smart play from Jance to know roughly where they're coming from, and the defuse is going to come in. It's funny to see Watch This kind of move away and make it a bit of an open site to execute onto on A, but mature, right, from Watch This to have the buddy system, the 2 players making sure they can trade off of each other. But that was a close round.
I mean, you have to go for that buddy system, right, when you're 9 HP with 1 Cypher. This was a beautiful play coming out from Alex. You could see that OWA OWA invested that Nebula. They had close quarters weaponry. They wanted to not take any distance fight in mid. They wanted to just get onto that side as quickly as possible and actually take Watch This into a position where they could still get those kills coming through. And Watch This see the Nebula, hear the sound, and immediately challenge it. That's one of the first times we've actually seen them challenge themselves for that space. And Maddie is actually going to be popping those knives immediately to try and brute force Watch This away from B. But Alex is taking that aggression with a very familiar run it back style.
Oh, and the Cosmic Divide is used to sort of break up this site. It's just the case of the Jet to use the ultimate to clear it, but Shells throughout all of this is able to get 2 kills, tries to sneak their way through the Divide, which of course takes all of the bullet damage. Stephanie was there waiting and can actually catch onto Jansu, had flanked their way around. Now it's a 2 versus 2. The spike hasn't been dedicated to the B site, so it is going to make its way over to A. A bit more utility dedicated in that direction, and a Nebula placed down to make sure that this rotation is as safe as it can be. Watch This, not really sure where it could be going, but again, playing together, trying to play for this post-plant clutch.
Well, that fault line has not actually forced Watch This onto that B site. However, we're hoping it would buy themselves a little bit of time. Do you have that Rolling Thunder? Watch This do not have that Hunter's Fury. They have a little bit of information. The Recon Bolt is still up, but Alex is just checking hell, making sure that they don't get stuck in a crossfire. OWA OWA have completely backed out. But that is the breach starting to charge it up, and Cass completely stuck in between that diffuse animation. Sankey going to be pulling the ultimate out of the breach. Gravity while making sure that Alex cannot get a clean diffuse. And Stephanie able to set themselves up perfectly with that utility, as all the while that spike is going down more and more and more as Cass is pulled out of the gravity well again! Oh,
the stun.
Beautiful.
That's how it's done.
That's how it's done. It's absolutely nutty how strong Gravity Well can be. It doesn't stop the plant, but it puts you into the fragile state, so you're taking double that damage.
I mean, Astra's been in play a couple of different tournaments now, but I guess people are now starting to see it. It's one of the key things out of Masters, right? There are so many teams that didn't qualify for Masters in Europe and North America, had a huge amount of time to practice Astra ahead of Stage 2. So I do think that whoever get their heads around this new agent first are going to be better off for it, but it is just in play once. Chells, though, takes nice timing on the duel, able to get one into Cali before dismissing into safety. Alex is there to try and regress into these positions. Having the Reyna and the Phoenix playing together is so good, just to make it so difficult for the attackers to take B main without any form of casualties. Cass now using the Eldron to break any trips to see if it can get any more information. But OWA OWA playing off of it, only 4 players alive, but still got a good amount of map control, if you don't count the push on A.
Well, Maddie was just making a lot of noise, right? You've already pulled out one dark cover and another recon bolt. All the while, that spike is nowhere near that side, and watch this, they don't know where it is. They're wasting so much utility so early on in the round that if OWA OWA are actually able to get that spike down, they are going to be at a huge advantage in that recontest. So for Watch This, they have to be able to take out this attacking team before they get onto that hallowed ground. Right, we talked about how strong that Astra utility can be, already setting it up. Oh, here it comes. Nebula's going to be coming out, buying yourself a little bit of space to move through and take that fight.
Oh, and it's almost there to put 3 kills together. Multiple players from Watch This just peeking out of these smokes, but it ultimately works out in their favor as it's a 3 versus 1. You know, where this final attacker is, there wasn't really much time on the board to get the spike planted nonetheless. Watch This have been dealing with this very much better than it certainly did in the Moon Raccoons game. And the fact that OWA OWA won this map so dominantly against CLG Red means that this is certainly a lot closer than we maybe anticipated, but you're looking at Stephanie doing a lot of the work with frags on the breach, setting not only herself up, but the rest of the team, and Alex just doing Alex things again.
Well, one thing that Watch This are doing a very good job of is actually dealing with those nebulas, right? That peak coming out was absolutely clinical. They didn't just take the fight one-on-one. The second that those nebulas come down, everyone moves in to converge on the Astra. So she can't do what Reyna's love to do, take a fight and then move on to another one that you can win. And now Watch This, they have already lost that Reyna, the Nebula, already making sure that Zero is forced away from mid, completely pinned down right now. Drone going to be coming out, getting a little bit more information. Cyphercade should be able to let her get out of market without a scratch. And now we're seeing OWA OWA, they are on the eco. Sheriff's out, just making a whole bunch of noise to draw out that utility from Watch This. Astral Form going to be coming through, and the star already set up.
It was a good fight from Alex to take that engagement onto Hannah. OWA OWA just happy to take these duels with the Sheriff. They already got 1 kill, but can't really go off of it now. A full 4-player execute coming in onto Trey. Jance, a nice spot actually. This is going to be a real pain in the backside. We saw this quite a lot from the bind game against Moon Raccoons, just holding these angles, and it's much more punishing than we saw in the previous series. Jance getting a free K. It's so difficult for OWA OWA to pick up any positioning when they don't split in the right spots. And another clean retake coming in from Watch This.
Pain in the back, quite literally in that case. 3 players shot in the spine. And Watch This played that absolutely perfectly. You have to be able to control that space. And, I mean, OWA OWA, they were coming in on Sheriffs. They didn't have the weaponry to be able to put up a fight immediately to get control of that space, and I love that Watch This recognized that and took control of it themselves.
Still curious on how they make this Astra work now that things are going poorly. And yeah, 4 out of the 5 rounds were defuses now from the defenders of Watch This. We're getting towards the end of this half, so the defending side will have to end eventually for Watch This. Jans wants to take a fight, but up against multiple players that are making their way through A main with a Rolling Thunder, it might not be worth trying to challenge them. Just let the spike go down, because as we've been seeing, these retakes have been really solid from Watch This. The problem, however, is they don't really have the ultimates, but if Shells is on a roll like she is currently, you might not even need them.
You do have Neural Theft if you're able to get the space to use it. Cast going to be pulled into that gravity well. Almost managed to escape it. No fragile state set up for that Sova, so now this is what we were talking about, right? OWA did not have this space when they pushed in, and watch this, now they've grabbed it back.
Ooh, it's an awkward fight. Teray actually getting 2 kills from the bottom of hell. Zero now between a rock and a hard place, trying to work out which engagement to take, but able to get Teray. Uses the Neural Theft to get that information where they are, but there's so little time. The Hunter's Fury even used to just delay it further. He's going to try and go for the engagement, but it's not enough time to go in for the defuse. It's another... These post plants for both teams have been where the action is.
For OWA though, you consider that a win, right? You were able to pull Neural Theft out from the defense, and sure, you invested Hunter's Fury, but you were still able to get that round into your favor. Watch This were coming in. They wanted to win that round. They had the kills to back them up. But that Hunter's Fury just completely puts the spanner into the works, and now OWA have another Cosmic Divide. Look at how this team is setting up. They want to full push onto that A site. They want to brute force their way through, but the Cypher is going to be there with the camera on the B site to make sure you don't aggressively get pushed with an Empress coming in, because again, watch this. They love to put these agents on that specific site. The Phoenix, the Reyna, playing that buddy system, hoping to find a pick, and OWA, they've seen it all before.
They're going to push beyond what they usually do at this point, and trading off this spot for Chels is going to be tough for Alex, but Alex still going further beyond. No running back to go off, but a bit of an awkward engagement considering how many people are there. Chels now trying to take the fight against Free, but they can't really get more than one onto Maddie. But look at all this space that Watch This have taken in the meanwhile. The issue, the problem is that now the Neural Theft's been used. Jance's position's been given up. They're in a scary spot, but they are going to dedicate to holding onto this off angle, but Stephanie likely to clear it. Jance is good for 1, but a 3 versus 2 as they make their way onto the A site as an execute. The stars being aligned for Astra. It's going to allow this execute, but look, the Cypher's disrespecting it, but the information's gathered and Cass gets a collateral.
Cass Hunter's Fury too. Spikes down. Nebula's going to be running out. There it goes. Hannah has the spike, is able to pick it up, but that Sankyu is going to be coming through, and that Hunter's Fury can be the absolute bane of your existence. Uses the Hunter's Fury. Cass trying to use that Sankyu to figure out where the Cypher is holding, but oh my goodness, every single one of them misses!
Spike planted.
Now Cass is going to over-aggress, maybe a little bit of recon dart, just to sort of clear up the majority of the site. So Cass has a rough idea where Hannah would be playing from, but it's not quite enough. A really bizarre round with multiple duels happening across the map. The good trades from either side, but OWA tying up the score yet again onto a Watch This. And that time, I mean, it's weird to keep saying like the post plants is where the action keeps happening, but that was clearly not the case from the last round with that early aggression on B main.
That wasn't even really a post plant. Hunter's Fury came out to try and stop that spike going into the ground, but Hannah's able to keep her cool. Doesn't get hit by a single one of them, still is able to get that spike safely through. And Chel's just completely frozen up right now. Alex going to be playing alongside them. I mean, when you see that Reyna, you know the Phoenix is going to be there, and I do like that Watch This are actually diversifying their positions of that tag team. Make it just a little bit harder for OWA to predict the movement. Astral Form going to be kept heavily under guard by the entirety of the team to set that Cosmic Divide up, and this is going to be a full-on rush. But Watch This are actually contesting this. Look at this beautiful rotation coming out from them, but Stephanie will be there to meet them with the flashpoint prepared.
Oh, they get flashed themselves from the curveball. I mean, Breach, it's the war of attrition, right? But Stephanie's not quite sure where Alex has placed himself, so trying to take the fight, win it. Nice work, but down to 5 HP, and this defender's still making her way in. Jance happy to take the fight, but that's a lot of damage done from Stephanie. I think that was a headshot, but not quite enough. Our sort of winning up against ETConnect, to be fair, and dedicating some big ultimates alongside, but it's nice to see the Astra being used to this sort of level. It's so much fun to watch a new agent come into the game and actually be used to be really good. I'm sorry, Yoru. I hope you don't take it personally, but it is nice to see an agent come in pretty much off the like Killjoy, like Reyna to an extent, to come in and be like, yeah, they're good. We can see them in pro play a bit more. Even Sky took a bit of a while.
Sky took a little bit of a while, but she's definitely found a niche spot, especially on Bind with those guiding lights. But that Astra really is quite a pain for Watch This to deal with. And you find yourself sort of echoing back, right, to what we talked about with Watch This. A lot of these rounds really do feel very close. If they were up against any other team with that brute force attack, it would have worked extremely well. But in that moment, Stephanie there on the breach is able to just flash them all out, and the more agents that are clustered up, the more agents that flashpoint is going to get. An hour. They know if they wait just a little bit longer now, Watch This, they're going to come hunting for them. They're playing for picks. They're waiting for the defense to walk right out of that natural cover. And it's coming up trumps.
A 5-player death ball. Even in their own spawn, I mean, there's still 55 seconds to make something happen, but I think Watch This is kind of like gun-ho. You know, we didn't see this really at all in that Moon Raccoon series. They're just pushing so aggressively for information and for jewels. But I guess this could be the last chance saloon. It's just funny to sort of see, you know, a minute has passed already, and this whole, you know, protect the president playstyle coming out of OWA OWA, making its way onto B, fairly uncontested, but now 3 players are rotating in from Watch This.
You can see as well that Watch This, they didn't know where the attack would be because of those stars. One goes down on the A site, and it actually keeps Watch This's attention just long enough for the next Nebulas to come out onto that B site. Spike is down. Zero is going to be trying to find any sort of angle, but you have to time it with Cass, otherwise you're just going to get taken out one by one because those Nebulas are buying all of that attention. OWA OWA can free spray through them, and Watch This have no idea where the other players are playing.
Zero wanted to try and time the Nebula right so they can peek out to try and catch them off, but there's so many players peeking at the right time. Tiray actually getting 2. Nice stuff from OWA OWA to just go 1, 2, 3 peek, and it works out. Cass is able to get a bit of an exit frag, or maybe even actually going to try and go for an opportunity to defuse. I mean, why not? It's the last round of this half. You might as well go for it. There's no point saving, but 7-5, OWA OWA. They were looking to be the worst team for quite some time, but 4 rounds in a row at the end of the half was good enough to sort of give them the lead. You can have a sort of look back at this, but first half of Astra play that I've seen, some good, some bad, right, Moxie?
I mean, it's those Nebulas, right? If she has them when that post-plant situation comes through, the 15-second duration, you're forced to either peek and get your head absolutely ripped off if you're not able to find them through the smoke, or wait that 15 seconds. And when you've only got 40 seconds to work with after that spike goes down, it's just not enough time. Watch This, they had to wait. And unfortunately, just not having that time on their side forced them to rush and go for that defuse. And now we're going to see 7-5, OWA OWA on the defense, and Astra on the defense is even harder to uproot than Astra on the attack because she gets all the time in the world. If she wants to, she can just play all the way from her spawn and still be able to move that utility around the map.
Now it's the turn of Watch This to go on the attack. You have 2 flashes though with the raised. God, can you imagine Raze with a flash? If she wasn't annoying enough. Don't really want to deal with that. But we have a Phoenix and a Reyna going to be able to be nice entries in. And I guess that was the only negative side of OWA's composition. I think 100 Thieves struggled with this a little bit, Masters as well. A lot of pressure on the duelist to be your entry, your way into and execute your tip of the spear. If the Jet or the Raze, I suppose, in 100 Thieves' case, goes down very early in the round before they execute, it's very difficult to make it work to have one player play the aggressive executor. Especially if you're running Astra, sometimes you can have an Omen play a bit aggressively. I think of like Kriya, Ninjas in Pajamas, he's a very aggressive Omen. But Astra just doesn't vibe with me when it comes to playing her aggressively, right? You have to be much more passive playing Astra than playing Omen. That's what it feels like to me, but I don't know if you agree.
No, I do agree, but one thing that does actually set OWA OWA up for that initiator, to give a little bit of stress off their Jet shoulders, is that breach. They have that flash utility to actually allow you to just dash onto that site and try and get that space, but watch this, already going to have lost that Omen, Maddie, on that Jet. Able to pick up one through the smoke. You do lose both the Astra and yourself, and that spike should be able to go down. Carly going to get a lot of information with that Hunter's drone, but they don't perhaps know that Alex has actually moved through guard. The Glass Shadow going to give it away, and Stephanie able to win the duel. All the while that tick-tock is going through. Cass completely concussed right now. Trying to get into a safe position, but you're pinned down. You can't move to hell without taking a fight, and OWA OWA is going to get the kill.
Yeah, scrappy one. You know, losing the Astra is always going to be a bit of a negative aspect. I really like the super wide Stephanie peek that came in from the top of rafters through the window. Just take the fight, make sure that that player goes down in gardens. And the lead is going to continue to grow for OWA OWA. This was a tough map for Watch This, as we saw earlier, and it's been a much better performance, but it has been 5 rounds in a row that they've been unable to pick up. You would imagine a 6th is going to come with a pretty much Spectre full buy coming in from OWA OWA and just pistols, ghosts at most to Watch This. They're going to try and make something work. The A site is completely open, but they're obviously not going to know that just yet.
All of that utility coming out already. Curveball, dark cover, doors going to be coming down. OWA OWA who just full stacked. They're coming in. They know if they have a full team behind them, they'll be able to take advantage of all of these angles. And I actually love this lurk coming from Watch This. You're going to have your Omen in wine so that you don't get caught out on that A main approach. Carly's going to be charging up that Recon Bolt, trying to get a little bit of Shock Dart rather. Perfectly through Hal, but there are 2 players there and it only catches out the Reyna.
Is that the second Shock Dart kill that Carly's got this game?
I think it might be.
It's working out nicely. Cass's position is very much given up at that point with the Recon Dart pulsing multiple cases. But 9-5 now. It's expected, I guess, but it's hard to really know now that the full buy is going to come in. Obviously, Ultimates aren't really on their way just yet. Cass isn't too far off having a Hunter's Fury, which is quite surprising considering these last 2 rounds have not gone the direction of Watch This. But I did enjoy watching OWA OWA pull out the Vision Strikers play. I think they're going to do it again. The Breach is set up in mid. The Jet is set up in mid. It seems that this is the set play coming in, but there are plenty of Watch This players going to be running into it. So this could be a bit of a car crash. There is a bit of a pause. I was kind of like counting down the seconds, but we're just going to have to wait. I think it might be a tick or attack, but the pause has come in. Now it's undone. Just a quick one, but is this going to be it? Yeah, that's the Vision Strikers play. And the Astra as well, the Gravity Well to pull them in. That's much cleaner than the last round. And if you weren't sold on what Astra could do for her team, then you got a good glimpse of it there. That's like Vision Strikers plus Astra. I think even Vision Strikers look at that and they're like, write that down. That's actually really good. It's evolved after all this time.
Yeah, and for OWA OWA as well, remember they were coming in on the 3 rounds. They've still got their SMGs. Watch This had full bought the rifles. You need to keep as many of these as you can. Jet! Able to get free, but not able to get the Jet. The defuse will come through. And that was a round that was so much more important for Watch This to win in terms of that economy round. And it's all completely lost from the very start because of that Gravity Well setup.
That's so good. I also saw a really good Gravity Well whereabouts the spike was planted just to catch one more kill, but 3 players not checking an angle and allowing that spray down to come in. I mean, Jance even gets the headshot onto Kali, I think, just before Kali gets that frag. So that could have been that would have been a really good set play very early on in that round, coming out super well for OWA, followed by an insane 4K. Almost, but not quite. But the lead is pretty much double now for OWA OWA, 10-5 up. And again, you got to feel bad for Watch This. Another set play coming out of the defense to sneak a kill, but it is an eco. It is expected to come through for them.
Yeah, light round coming out from Watch This. They know that their economy needs to be as clean as they can possibly get it if OWA OWA are able to get themselves onto that 11th point. the real problem for this team, though, is that they don't have anything that guarantees them kills to come properly through, right? You still have a little bit of threat, especially with that Hunter's Fury, but for OWA, even if they're forced into a situation where they lose the rifles, Maddie will have those knives to fall back onto. And for Watch This, they're losing all of these members extremely early on in the rounds because OWA are just very good with the setup. Oh no, one gets two!
Spike down mid.
The trade isn't even there, the buddy system has failed.
Alex very much wanted to try and take a fight, but Stephanie picks up a flawless 3K. It was, again, up against an eco, but I think as we're sort of going on, and bear in mind that Watch This have had to play 3 maps on the trot with very little break in between. I think we're starting to see the discipline slip a bit, the concentration, not checking this angle.
Oh.
It is an eco, but just waiting that long. Cass was been like, at this point, Arena must have checked that corner so it's clear. So the fact that that kill came in late, it just Cass like, oh, what? It just catches them completely off guard and
like dominoes.
Yeah.
That domino effect, unfortunately, for Watch This.
Oh, a star's been set up at Maddie's feet.
Oh, but it's not going to activate in time. Nebula is going to come out, try and slow Jance's approach, but that duck cover should allow that Omen to move safely through. Trace taken out of the way. Rolling Thunder is something that you have to worry about. Stephanie's getting aggressively pushed and has all of the breach utility. Alex is looking for that kill. They know they have to get that breach out of the way, and the run it back is going to be popped just to try and get that breach's head. And Stephanie is just trying to find where they want to put in this utility. Al's going to be the first casualty.
Ooh,
and that's all they
spray
need
down
to
is
find
good.
Jance. Oh.
They get a lot of information. It's working out, and the recon data is still available too, so they can clear up this site with this post plant going in. Cass playing from distance has to hunt this Fury. It does get used relatively early, but this is still so much information that the attackers are allowed to work with because of the Cypher camera. Alex is able to get something off of it, but nice trade from Hannah just to make sure they can't go further. The off angle is nice enough. It gets brought down into a 1 versus 1. Hannah with a nice 3K. It's just enough time to get this fight diffused. Again, great individual stuff from there on the retake, and OWA on match point.
Oh, and OWA were able to keep a hold of the Rolling Thunder as well. For which it was beautiful. And this is what we always harp back to on this map for Watch This, right? Beautiful plays, but the tiny difference is the one thing that separates that scoreline of 5-12. The Hunter's Fury was perfect. It was coming out just a little bit early, but it still delays that fight just long enough. But OWA are still able to get that defuse to come on through. They've got the blades. They can go for those aggressives as Cass. Oh, if that had been a gravity well, that would have been deadly. And I do like that they're actually giving a lot more space towards that mid, that they're not looking for Link because of that gravity well that came through and absolutely crippled their chances. But they've not given them enough space. OWA pushing forward aggressively when there is just nothing to Watch This to contest with. Spike does go down. Post plant coming through. But you still have to worry about those knives. Jance is going to use them from the shadows, trying to get a little bit of information, but instantly sent back.
Last player standing.
I like the space that Kaz has taken, but it's a 1 versus 4. Sort of fluffs up the first shot. They're still alive. The defuse has been sort of poked a little bit, but Kaz now trying to find the jewels. Gets a Cypher. Just 3 more players, but Teray holding on to that spot. 13-5. Considering that Watch This were 5-3 up early on, unable to get around after that point. Like, it was just so dominant from OWA, and I think we really did get to see what an Astra can do when brought into a competitive scene like this. I'm content with the pick.
Do you know what's even more terrifying as well? That you saw, right? The conditioning response that Watch This had when they saw the stars coming out in mid. They backed up, they gave space, they hadn't even detonated. And so the Astra can just immediately plonk that down when the round starts, guarantee that you're not going to get contested aggressively on mid, your team can push forward, and then when that's done, when you've got that space for free, you yank the stars back and you use them in the post plan.
I also got a shout out Stephanie on the breach as well. When I sort of first had a look at the kill feed. She was on top when it comes to frags. Not as that many assists, but we saw a lot of impactful flashpoints coming through, being able to set up the executes to create space, even just setting up herself at that point. Not only was the Astra really good to watch, but we saw some really good breach play in a region that seems to cast out the agent quite a lot, depending on the teams for the most part. So it was really a composition that worked out quite nicely. The single duelist, it is probably the most well-rounded composition in the game, but there's a fine line, right? If you get something just a little bit wrong with utility, the timing, stuff like that, it could fall apart very quickly. So it's nice to see it come to its full potential in this series.
Yeah, and for Watch This as well, they're looking for that moment, right? They're trying to aggressively push on that Astra in Astral form, and you can see the fact that when the Astra enters Astral form, the entire team is there. They just go full Sparta. Shields out, spears out, everyone gather around the Astra, don't let anyone close, get your utility off, get that time, then move on to that space, knowing that you do have that immediate burner of those nebulas to buy you all of the time to stop the rotation coming through from the other side.
We're going to go for a quick break. When we come back, Watch This. We'll be picking up Bind as the second map to play. It's their last chance in this tournament. They got to make it work, but we'll have that to finish off potentially a third map in this series if it all goes to plan later on. But a quick break, so don't go anywhere.